Lost in the buzz of all the recent AI updates is a new Canva feature that can potentially save you hours and hours of time, a feature that a lot of us have been asking for years. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Canva Components. With Canva Components, you can update one source component and then have lots of instances of that component across that design or across multiple designs update instantly. But who has access to the feature? How does it all work? I'm going to teach you everything about Canva Components in this video, from the basics to the smart way I think you should be using them. So let's dive right into it. So just a quick note, I did take everything I'm talking about in this video. I put together a Canva Components cheat sheet. So if you want to get a copy of that, you can sign up for my free newsletter down below, and then you can have that as a resource as you get up to speed with Canva Components. So what is a Canva component? In simple terms, a Canva component is a source object that you can then create as many instances of as you want and use across as many designs as you want. But then if you go back and change that original source object and update it, you can make that update across all the instances of that object. So this is something that can potentially save you lots and lots of time. So first, let's just go over the very basics of Canva components, including one distinction you need to be aware of if you're going to take full advantage of these. And then we'll move on to a larger example where we really talk about a smart templating workflow where you can make use of components, and I think that's really going to drive the power of components home. But first, the basics. So here I am in a blank presentation file, and let's imagine I want to add my logo to this page and maybe to all the pages of this design. Well, I have that under uploads here. I've uploaded a couple different logo versions, so let's just grab this one here. I'll bring this one in here. We're going to size it down. Let's say I want to place it somewhere down here. Now, it wouldn't be that hard to copy and place this on additional pages. I could just hit Control-C to copy. We build a new page, we're going to paste it, a new page, and we paste it. So now we have it on all three of these pages. However, what if I decide this isn't exactly the version of this logo I want to use? I'd have to go change it on each page. Maybe not such a big deal if we only have 3 pages, but what if I have 30 pages? What if I have 50 pages? So that has the potential to become a time sink. Well, with components, if you use a component for your logo placement here, then you would only have to change the one instance and you could have the logo on every page update. So let's look at how we would do this. So I will again click on this logo here to bring a copy in here, but now I'm going to use the 3 dots here, and I'm going to go under here and I'm going to choose this create component option. Now notice the pro icon here, this crown. This is a pro feature. If you want to create and publish components, you have to be a pro Canva user. If you're a free Canva user and somebody shares a project with you that has components, you might be able to work with it. So if you're on a team where there are components, you might be able to make use of those, but you cannot create and publish your own components. That is a pro feature. Now, if you're a free user and you want to try Canva Pro free for 30 days, I do have an affiliate link, so I can paste that down below in the first pinned comment. But just know you have to be a pro user if you want to create and publish components. So I'm going to do this create component, and then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give it a name. So we're going to call this Learning with Greg logo, whatever makes sense. And I'm going to just call this 001 because maybe later I might do a different version. So let's do this one here, right here. And we're going to ignore the Save the Brand Kit for a moment. We're going to get to that because that's very important. But for now, let's just click Create. So when we do that here, now we see we have this Components option over to the left, and we'll see we have a component option now here on the menu. So now if I go to any of these pages, I can actually delete this original one. I can actually delete this one we just placed here because now we have this component option. So I could close this menu here, so let me just go under something else. Then anytime I can come back to components and see the components. And these are actually components associated with this current design we're working on. Now that is important, and again, we are going to circle back to that. But for now, let's just see how this works. So now if I take this component, I can place it here, and let's position it where we want it. So maybe I want it to be right down here. Now remember, we had copies on these other pages, but we're going to get rid of these because these are just the ones that are not components. We just created these differently. So let's get rid of those. But so now on this first page, we can see that this now here says Learning with Greg. Now actually, because this component is small, I can't actually see everything that it's saying here. Let me just make it bigger for a second, because normally if you have it bigger, you can see that it's going to give you the name, and it's also going to give you this source icon. And now I want to make copies of this logo component so I have it on each page. But when I was recording this, I noticed that the first time I hit Control C to copy and Control V to paste, then it pasted without that blue header up top where it also says source. That's crucial. You want to make sure you see that blue header so you know that you do indeed still have a component. So just make sure you still see that. Now you can hit Control C, Control V, and that seemed to start working after it glitched a couple times. You can also right click and choose copy, or of course you can come to the left menu and choose the component itself and click on it and it will add it to the page. But sometimes copying and pasting it or right click, copy and paste is helpful because then it will place it in the exact position on the next page as it was on the page you are copying from. But just keep in mind, you got to see that blue header up top here so that you know you're still working with a component. You want to see this blue bar, so I'll just paste it here, should be in position. Go to the third page, get rid of this, the different one, just Control V, should be in position. Because when you copy and paste something from one page of a design to another, it will put it in the exact position as it was on that other page. So that can be a nice positioning trick, but you do have to make sure if you're using components that you see this blue bar so you know that it is a source component. Let's see now why having source components like this is so important and an advantage over just randomly placing, different copies on different pages. So let's imagine now that I'm like, I actually have a different version of my logo that I want to use that I think is going to work better, that I just want to use for whatever reason. Now, we only have 3 pages now, so if we have to change these individually, it wouldn't be a huge deal. But if we had 30 pages, much bigger deal. Well, now that we have a component, we can click this little arrow, or if it's expanded out, we would see that source text. So if I expand this out instead of the arrow now, we'd see the whole thing. But when I make it smaller here, we have that arrow. What I can do is go to the source here. It's going to open it up, and we see now that it's turned from blue to black here. So we are now working on the source object. And if I went in here now, and let's say I wanted to make some edits to this, so I could come on here, click on this. Let's change the color of this to green. I want it to be a green door. Actually, maybe we'll make it a blue door. So I can change the color that's within my logo here, because that's something I can do. Now, when I click the checkbox here, and go ahead and do that, we'll notice that this one updated as well. This one updated as well. This one updated as well. And then I can get rid of this original source thing. When you have a component within a project like this, it's going to open it in the same project, but then you just want to close this one out, hit delete, because you have all the copies. It's the instances that are going to update. And that's the crucial thing. Now you can make updates to something and have it update across all the pages of your design. Now, this is because we're using components that we created within a project and we did not click that choose brand kit option. Let's say, for example, now I wanted to come to a different presentation, so I'll come over to this presentation, and in this presentation I could come down to the Components tab, and we'll notice here it says create your first components. So those components we created in the other project do not exist within this project. Again, if you don't add it to your brand kit, then you're only creating a component for use in that design project. So if you just have a project where you want to do different things on different pages, like you always want to have a footer, and so you want to set up a footer, you can use it just within that project. So for example here also, I was just making this as a single component here, but what if I'd done something like this? So let's get rid of this for a second, and let's come up here instead. Let's say I wanted to add a rectangle, because maybe I also want to have something behind my logo, so I could have done something like this, where I made a bar here at the bottom. Maybe I have some other text, so maybe there's something else in here. So some other header that I have here. So I could drag that down. Maybe this is the title of my presentation. And then maybe I have the logo over here. So let's bring it up so it's on top. And again, this is already a component, so let's get rid of this one here. Let's just add in a original version of the logo again. So I'll go back to my uploads. Let's just grab this one here. That's fine. Click on this, bring it in here. And so you could have also been doing something like this. And then if we had selected all of these, so more than one object, I have all of these, I could group all these together or just have them all selected. And now I could go create component, and I could call this one, again, By default, it came up with footer banner. So you can name it whatever you want, but it's sort of using that AI technology based on what you selected, trying to give it a smart name that it thinks makes sense. So I could go ahead and click create now. Now it's created that footer banner. Again, same idea. I could come to my other pages. Remember, we're not using this component anymore. So let's delete that. Let's grab the footer banner. And again, let's try copying the whole thing. See right now, here's the original. So again, I think this is the problem. This is original. Let's get rid of the original. Let's add in an instance. Let's make sure it spans all the way across the bottom. Let's make a copy of that. Control C, Control V. Whoop. Didn't work. So it might be, to be on the safe side, you might want to right click and choose copy this way, because that Control C trick sort of failed me the last 2 times. But if I do Control C, Control V, now we see it's pasting, and it is pasting the component. Now again, if we want to update this whole banner, so like maybe I don't like the way this logo looks color-wise, maybe I don't want this heading, then I could go into my source here, and so now you see it changed to black. So now I'm editing that source, so I could say this is my title, and again, expand it, reposition it wherever you need it. Come over to your logo. Let's say, again, we want to change some colors in here, so let's make this yellow or whatever. Let's try a different color that actually is going to show a change in here. So again, I have different logos set up different ways, but so there's a door is a slightly different color now. So again, fool around whatever you want here, and then again, change all. We're going to select change all, and then if we go to all of our other pages, they have updated. So the point of components is they sort of act like building blocks. It's almost like a programming feature where you can create all these little instances of a design element. And then when you want to make changes, when you discover, hey, that's not working, I want something slightly different, you can have all the instances of that design element update as well. Now, so far we've only done this within a single design project, but components are even more powerful because you can have stored components that will work across several different designs, as many different designs as you want. And to do that, you have to publish your component to your brand kit. So we're going to take a look at that now by working through another example. And this example probably represents a real world scenario that you face. And that's the whole idea here, is you want to find the real world cases where this type of workflow makes sense. And we want to build out a smart workflow that's going to save us time. So right now you're watching one of my videos on YouTube. That's a part of my business. I create training on YouTube, and then that leads into other parts of my business. But when I create that YouTube video, I might also want to create assets for other social media channels based on that YouTube video. So I might need a YouTube thumbnail, but then maybe I'm going to do an Instagram story, a Facebook post, Pinterest pin, so other types of content. Now you probably face a similar challenge. You may not have a YouTube channel, but you're doing something to promote your business with Canva. You're creating some sort of asset in Canva, and then you might need that in different formats, right? So maybe you need a presentation file, but then maybe you're also going to share that to Facebook. So you probably have these various assets that you sometimes need to create, and you can streamline that process by using components. So I'm going to show you an example that might make sense for me, but then you got to take this idea and run with it and see how it fits within your business. So I've just cleared this out here, so I just have a blank presentation file right now, and this is also the same dimensions that I would use for my YouTube thumbnail when I'm creating a YouTube thumbnail to go along with the video, but I might need a Facebook post as well, so I could come down here, use this little arrow, then I go under social media, let's look and do Facebook post. I'm going to type in Facebook until I see post. Facebook post, you can search under here. So there we go, Facebook post. So I have another page here, but then let's keep adding. I'm also going to add, oops, if you just hit plus, it's going to do the last format you just did. I did that by mistake, so I could come in here and delete this page. And then let's go use that drop down arrow again. And again, this time we'll look for Instagram Reel. Instagram Reel or Story. Let's do Instagram Story. Whenever you add something that potentially has video elements, it sort of jumps to the video timeline, but you can exit out using this little arrow here in the left just to get back to this sort of thumbnail view here on the bottom. Let's go ahead and add a regular Instagram post as well. So I'm going to do this one. I'll search for Instagram post. And so all I'm doing now is starting by just building out the different forms of content I want now. Now in a Canva update last year, they went to where now you can have multiple different size formats in one document. So right off the bat, I can have all the different content I'm creating here in one project. So that's also a nice feature we have now in Canva. So one more thing here, let's go ahead and do a Pinterest pin. And again, you could add as many different types of content that you potentially might want to create whenever you have an asset like this. And again, the more you potentially have to create, the more you potentially save time by using a workflow that takes advantage of components. So I'm just going to do these 5 things here. So this is going to be a YouTube thumbnail. This is going to be a Facebook post. This is going to be an Instagram story, or at least part of an Instagram story. Again, that might need more than just this one slide here, but for now I'm just going to do the one for this example. And then we also have a Pinterest pin, so different size pages that I might want to use similar pictures, similar components on, but of course they're going to have to be organized slightly different because I have different sizes here. So let's go back to this first one here, and we're just going to start building. And as I start building here, you're going to see the way I start to make use of components and turn this really into a smart template that we can reuse again and again. And I'll show you an example all the way through where I use this to create a set of assets and then how I can very quickly repurpose it to another set of assets. So again, for me, the idea is that I know I can provide a ton of value on YouTube, and I pour a ton of time and effort into my YouTube content. So I don't want to spend tons of time on those other platforms, Facebook, Pinterest, other platforms where I might want to make use of them, but I don't want to pour tons of time in them. So I want to use them as ways to sort of just drive people quickly to my YouTube content. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do here. Now, as I do this, I'm going to attempt to stay organized. And again, I'm trying to build a repeatable system. Now, how you organize is up to you because it might be different for you than it is for me. But so for me, I'm going to come under my brand kit because we know we're storing things in our brand kit. So you can choose from any of your brand kits, but I'm just going to choose from Learning with Greg here. And then I have these different folders in here, but I'm just going to create a new one. So you can always create a new category here. So I'm going to come under this plus icon and add a new asset category. And so it's going to let you give it a title down here. So let's come down here, and didn't rename it right away, so it's sort of locked. So I have to use those 3 dots to go in here and rename. Now I can rename. Let's call this one Social Media Marketing System. Again, whatever you want, but I like to call things systems. You'll hear that term a lot within entrepreneurship and businesses when you're creating sort of a repeatable system that you can reuse. And for me, I just want anytime I do a YouTube post, I want to really quickly be able to build out the assets related to that. So my YouTube thumbnail, but then also assets where I can easily promote that YouTube video on other channels. Okay, so now that I have that, now I can start to build out sort of my different designs here. But as I do, I'm going to start to build out components where appropriate. So I'm just going to come in here and start by grabbing an image. So I'll grab this car image. I did a post recently, a video recently on how to change the color of anything in Affinity. So I can link that up above if you're interested and you want to check that out. Again, Affinity free, great tool for Canva users to extend their skill set even farther. So I'll post that link up above. But let's work on a thumbnail for that. So I sometimes do learning series. So I have this image here, but then I also have a sidebar here. But before we go any farther, I know I'm going to want this image across all my different designs. I'm going to want a main image that I reuse on my different assets. So let's turn that into a component. So if you're going to reuse something across your different designs, then that's where a component is going to make sense. So again, select the car image. We're going to use these 3 dots, and we're going to come down and we're going to choose Create Component. But this time we're going to make sure that we do come in here and save the brand kit. But before that, I'm going to change the name here because again, it used the AI. It said car color splitter, so it does recognize what's there. But I just want to call this main image because that makes more sense to me, because obviously it's going to be different when I come in and change that for other posts, because I'm not always going to use this image. The idea is now I'm just having a placeholder and I can swap in different images as I generate different assets. Different sets of assets. So now we have main image here. We're going to save that to brand kit. And where am I going to put it? Learning with Greg. And I'm going to put it in that social media marketing system right there. So we'll go ahead and create that. So it's saving that off. And now we're going to see that this turns blue here. So it lets me know that this is an instance of that source component. If I want to access the source itself, then I can just click on source right here, and it's going to open up sort of on this whiteboard where we have the dots behind it. And now we'll notice that this is black. So on the main copy here, whenever you have a copy, it's blue here. But then if you click through, it's going to open up the source file, and then you'll notice that this turns black. And if you click on where it's black, then you can come in here. So if I wanted to change the name, I could give it a different name. And then also you're going to have some checkboxes here. Now, depending on the type of element you're using, you may have more checkboxes here, as we'll see in a minute as we add some text elements and other things. But this just controls what functionality you're going to have when you're working on that child instance of this main object, because you can turn these off and sort of lock it so you can't really do anything with those, or you can have some ability to detach them, which we'll talk about, to edit them in certain ways. So we're going to look at some of this as we go through here, but I'm going to leave these two checked for now, and we'll go ahead and we'll jump back here. We can even close this out for now and just go back to this main design here. So now we have a main image. So what else am I going to need here on my YouTube thumbnail? Well, I know that sometimes I do a learning series where I like to have a title over here on this side, and I also have the logo. So I'm just going to start by adding a rectangle. Now, I'm going to make this white, so let's go ahead and change that to white here. And I'm just going to bring it over here to this side of the image, expand it out, pull it down, and it's going to sit over top. And so because of this, I might take my car image below and slide it over a little bit like that. Let's fit this to screen just to make sure I'm seeing everything. I guess I am seeing everything there. Now, this rectangle here, I'm not going to turn into a component because I'm not going to use that across all these different pages. You can decide what elements make sense as components, what elements you just want to have as a design element on one of your particular pages. You don't have to use components for everything. You want to use them when they're going to make sense. Okay, so what else do I want to add? Well, let me tap the R key to bring in another rectangle. I'm going to use this one to put below my main title. So I'm going to extend it mostly across, something like that, I think. Just bring it in here until it's centered. So we'll look for that sort of line where it snaps to the center. The color I can do as whatever. So maybe I'll just choose a color from my design here. So I could just grab my color picker and maybe grab a color from the car here, something like that. And again, this is another element where I'm not going to make it a component, but now I'm going to add my title, and I am going to want a title on all my different slides. So I'm going to make the title my second component. So let's just grab this text here. Let's throw in a heading. So here it is here, and let's come in. Let's move it down into position. Let's expand it so it fills the whole image here right there. I'm going to hit caps lock so we were all in caps, and I'm going to put changing colors in affinity, since that's what this particular post was about here. But remember, this is really just a placeholder, because when I do different sets of assets for different videos, I'm going to be able to come in and change the title. Now, if that's not all hitting home yet, you'll see how it works here in a minute. But this is where I'm also going to come in here and fool around with the color and the size. Again, some of these things we are going to be able to update and change later, but I'm going to go ahead and get this roughly to what I want here for this particular post here, and then we'll see how some of these things we're going to be able to update later. And I'm actually going to bump this up just slightly, and actually let me just size it down slightly as well, holding down my Alt key on Windows so I can size in from the center outwards. Now this title I'm going to turn into our second component. So again, once again, I'm selecting it. So let's just click on it, get that blue box around it, come up to the three dots. We're going to turn this into a component. Again, think of a name that makes sense. It says header banner. I'm going to call this main title. And once again, save the brand kit. And once again, we're choosing that social media system here. And we're going to create that. So once again, adding these components because we're going to start to use them across different pages. Now I'm going to go ahead and one more time come over and grab more text. So let's create a subheading. So I'm going to grab this subheading here. I'm going to go ahead and paste in something like this. So see the tutorial on YouTube by Learning with Greg, because my goal again is to drive traffic back to my YouTube channel. Now, I could decide I didn't want this as a component because maybe I'm going to have a different call to action on this page, and then maybe for what's going to be my Facebook post, it's going to be a different call to action. Maybe on Instagram, my call to action would be something about link in bio. So you could keep these separate if that's what makes sense for your templating workflow. It really comes down to what is specific for you. For me, I think I'm going to use this, and I think I am going to set this up as a component just because it gives me a nice default here. But if I want to change it and update to something else, I can still do that, and then we'll see as we get in here, you can have something set up as a component, but still make individual changes and just not have it update if you update the component. So we'll see all that as we get into this. But I'm going to go ahead now and just select all this here. So just click on this, again, select the 3 dots, and we will once again do create component. It's calling this footer, but I actually want to call this call to action. So this is going to be my call to action component. I will save it to my brand kit. And again, I can use this in other designs as well. So anytime I want to put in a call to action and I want it to be this generic call to action that points to my YouTube channel, this is why this sort of component may make sense for me, because that's something I'm going to be trying to do a lot. So again, I'll put it in this social media marketing system, and we'll go ahead and create, and we have another component. Now, I have a component for my image, for my title, for my call to action. I have a couple other things I want here. Because I do tutorials about Canva and Affinity, different software platforms, a lot of times when I have a learning series, I will put a logo in here. And sometimes I might want to swap that from one logo for one software like Canva to another one like Affinity. So I'm going to set up a component to make that a little easier. So for starters, I'll just go here under this and I'll grab this Canva logo, which I used recently, and I'll bring that in here, and I'm going to size that down to roughly where I'm going to want it in the design. So maybe centered right about there. And I'm going to save this off as a component. But I'll show you later how I'm going to add additional logos sort of into this component so I can choose which logo I want anytime I create a new series of social media assets based on one of my videos. But for now, I'll select this. I'm going to go in here, again, use this, and I will choose Create Component. And this one I'm going to call Software Logos, and specifically this is going to be a software logo. Again, I am going to save it to my brand kit, and I am going to put it in that marketing system that we're working on. So almost done here. I'm going to add one more component, and that is just my regular logo. So I'll bring this down a little bit. Now I'm just going to grab one of my own logos here. So I will go ahead and pull that from a design just off screen here. So Control C to copy it from another Canva file, Control V to paste it over. So here I have this other logo. And if I show you this here, this is actually a group of elements. I'll ungroup it for a second just to show you. I have the text separate. So here is some text. And then that's actually group text here. This is grouped as well. So if I ungroup it, it's actually 3 different blocks. So we have 2 text blocks and we have this image block here. But I'm going to hit Control Z just to step back until it's grouped back together, because I do want this all grouped together. And again, as I mentioned before, you can have components be more than just one single element. It can be multiple elements. So with all these elements in a group here, I'm going to go ahead and turn this whole thing into a component. And the reason why I have my text and my doors separate is just because I want to be able to do certain text edits that you can do with a component separately from what you can do with the image element here. So I just want to separate them out. I don't want it to be a straight image because I want to be able to update the text. So I have a logo here that actually has live text in Canva. So we're going to go ahead in here and create component. And I will call this one my logo, or I'll call it maybe logo 1 in case I ever have a different version I want to use. So we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll save this to the brand kit here. And once again, put that in the social media marketing system, and we'll go ahead and hit create. Now, at this point, maybe all this hasn't locked in because we haven't really built it out to that aha moment, but that's what we're going to work through now. So first I'm going to take sort of these base components, and I'm going to use these components to build out my other pages here, and then we'll see how this really gets put into action. Now, as I build out these templates for my other social media platforms, I could come back and copy from this page, right? I could copy these components and paste them over, but I don't actually have to do that because I'm looking within that folder here under my brand kit, so I can actually just click and add these components directly to the design page I'm on. And because you're using this folder sort of as your home base anytime you're using this system, that's why we want to particularly think about the components we're putting in here, but we can also put in other design elements as well. So anything at all that you think you might use in this process, you can store in this folder for easy access. So again, the whole point here is just anything that's going to save you time anytime you use this system. Now I'll speed things up in the background, but what I'm doing here is just continuing to build out these pages, making smart use of these components. Now as you do this, you'll find yourself facing decisions about the way components are formatted on different pages. For example, what if I decide here that I want this text to spill onto 2 lines? This is where those component settings that I briefly mentioned before come into play, because I can come in here and I can click into the text and I can actually go in here and I can change this to 2 lines. And then I can also come in here and do things like adjust line spacing. So if I come under the advanced settings here, we have this line spacing. So I might want to pull that tighter together. So I just wanted to point out to you here with a text component, if you set it up a certain way, you can still come in here and make edits. So if I click off of it and then click back on it, you'll notice when you click on it once, you just have these limited options here. But then if I double click to get inside of that text component, now I can do things like come in here and adjust the text color. So maybe I give it a yellow color or something like that. You can change the color. You can do other things in here. And you can do that because if we go ahead and click now through to the source file, remember, if you click and open the source, and then you'll see that it's black here. If you click on the black title here of your source component, and then you're going to come in here and you can see these options. And you'll notice for this particular component, it's a text component, and we have text content, text formatting. We have these controls turned on. So anytime you have a component and you click on the black title of whatever that component is, when you're in viewing the source component, you have these options here that you can turn on. You turn those on, you have a little bit more flexibility with the type of things you can do with that component once you're actually back working with an instance of that component. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. So again, I will speed this up now, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. There are all these little nuances that you have to know if you really want to work efficiently and have the maximum amount of flexibility. So now I'm just laying out my other pages, making smart use of this component system. Okay, so now we have a design file where we have 5 different types here, assets that we're going to create every time we create a YouTube video. So YouTube video, I'm going to have some sort of hero image. I can grab that and I can start to apply this template, and we'll see how that works. And it's going to create these 5 different assets very quickly. Now, I can of course go in and continue to make tweaks to this, updates to this in the future, so you don't have to have this be the done final version. You can always make edits, you can always make updates, but what we have done is built out a system that's going to save us time and save us work. Okay, so first let's give this a name that makes more sense since it's just called heading right now. So I'm going to call this social media marketing template, since that's what this is going to be used for. And then I'm going to go ahead and save this off as a brand template. Now, brand templates are a pro feature. If you want to try pro account free for 30 days, I'll have an affiliate link down below. If you already have a pro account, that's great. There are other ways you could do this. If you're a free user, you can just save it with this name and then create a copy, but you're going to have to make sure you explicitly create a copy each time you launch this if you want to not be working on the original file. You can do that as a pro user just by creating a brand template. So I'm going to come down here and share this as a brand template. Who can access this? You can share it with your team if you want, and then you can decide where you want to put it. So by default, it's going to put this in whatever your working directory is. So if you look under the file menu, you can see right here where this currently is. So social media marketing templates, it's going to try to put it in that folder there, but I can put it somewhere different if I want to. So if I want to search for a folder, and I could come in here and find this templates folder where I store templates, I can do that as well. So you can search around here and use whatever folder you want. I'll put it in this templates folder, and so we'll go ahead and click add. And so now once I do publish and close, I'm going to close this file. I'm going to have it within that folder. Now, what was the purpose of all this? Well, share the brand template. If you have a team that you want to be able to make use of this system that you've just created, you can share it with your team. You can share it with members of your team. So you can do all of that here. And you can copy and paste the brand template link so they can access that template directly if you want to. But let's just see if you're using it for your own personal needs, how you would find it now. So now here I am. Let me just go to the Canva home screen here. I know I put this inside of my templates folder. So if I come in here under the projects tab here, I have all my folders here. So if I go under Learning with Greg, and then underneath here, I have this templates folder. And if I go in here, here is that brand template I just created. So if I click on this now, the reason why we created a brand template, because now we can use this brand template. And this is different from just launching a regular file, because what it's going to do is launch a copy of this file. So I'm going to use this brand template, and when we do, we'll notice up here it says copy of social media marketing template. So this isn't the original template itself. If back on that prior screen I had chosen these three dots, I could come in here and I could edit the original, and if you do that, you'll be editing the template itself. But the way we launched it, we've created a copy of that. And that's nice because when you're working under a specific run of creating some edits, maybe we're going to come in here and make some adjustments to like the size of this rectangle and other things that we don't necessarily want to change in that original template. We might specifically be doing that for just one set of graphics. This way we can preserve that original template, and we can always go make adjustments to that if we need. But now let's see the power of this system since we're using components, okay? So let's say sometime in the future, I want to create assets for another YouTube video I've done. Now, YouTube video, that's sort of where my content flow starts. For you, it might be an Instagram story, so whatever, wherever your starting point is. But for me, I know I have a new video. I did it all about the Affinity Paintbrush tool. And so now I want to go ahead and create a set of graphics for that video to point back to that video that I can use across all the different social media platforms that I use. So that's where I would come in here and I would start to adjust these components. So I can click through on the component itself here, go to the source, and then once I'm in on this source, I can now come in here and I can start to make changes. So this main image is really just a placeholder. I can come in here and drop in a new image. So if I go under my uploads here, so let me just go under the uploads tab here, I have this image here. I can drag it right over top, let it replace that other image. And so if I go under my position tab, layers, see, I've just replaced that here. And if I drop down, there it is. So we have this new image now. And then the crucial part of this is you have to use this publish updates, and you're going to go ahead and click yes, publish updates, and now it's going to update this source file. I can close this now, and if I jump back here to the copy of this, it's going to take a second here, but this will eventually, once you click on it here, you're going to see this red icon here. When you have this update option and you see that red circle here there, that red circle means some kind of change has happened to the source file. Do you want to update it within this design? Well, I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and then you can update just this instance or all instances. And what we want to do is update all instances, because we're now creating assets for that new video. We want to use the new image across all these assets. So when I click that, we can see that yes, that is updated across all these different images, all these different assets. Now, of course, you can come in here, you can very quickly grab one, you can reposition it there. I accidentally got my border, so my border is on top here. I can either control click down to get to the image, but if it's still grabbing that border, sometimes it's finicky about that. I'll just move that border out of the way for a second so I can reposition the rocket there. Then I'll make sure I grab that border and pull that back to where I want it. So very easily, I can come in here and make adjustments. Again, my logo here, if I want to bring this down, I can bring it down. So you can very easily come in here and make adjustments. Now, we also want to make adjustments to the title. And again, we're going to make use of that component feature. So again, I'll click in, we'll go to the source here. We're no longer talking about changing color in Affinity. Now we're coming in here and let's just double click in. Now, one problem with white text here is because it shows on this background, it is kind of hard to see. So if you need to come in here and fool with the color, you can do that just so you can see it, so you can make the update. So let's go in here and go Control A, and let's select it all, and let's just say mastering the paintbrush tool in Affinity. Or maybe I don't want the in Affinity part, so let's just go mastering the paintbrush tool. Let's simplify it a little bit. And then again, I'll do Control A, and let's just make it white. Because now we've made that change, we know we have the text the way we want it. And again, we're going to do publish updates. So it's going to publish all those updates. We'll close that back. We'll go to this copy here. And then once again, you click on it and we're going to look for that update. Again, sometimes you might have to click off for a second, but there it is right there, update. So update all instances, yes. Now I noticed this particular instance with the two-line title did not update. Even though it's showing that blue indicator up top showing it is a component, it is not updating. So I think that's sort of a bug right now in Canva. If you extend something to 2 lines like this in your official template, then it does seem like it'll break and it won't update. So what you might have to do is keep it as a single line title for now, and then once you go ahead and run and update that component with a new title, then after the fact, then you can extend it to 2 lines. So not ideal. Hopefully they make that fix, but right now that is what I am noticing. This one's looking good. This one's looking good. These have all updated. These are all looking good. But again, this one not updating. So at least for now, we might want to keep it as a single line title in our base template. Go ahead and update your source component. And then after the fact, we'll come in here and change this to 2 lines once we've changed that title in the source component. So this is a case where I'd probably want to go back to that original brand template and make the update there. So every time I launch it, I don't have to fix this problem. Now you can do other updates here as well. So like maybe I like the color of this down here. I'd rather use that rather than this blue here. So I could come in here. Let's grab this color. Let's go ahead and grab this color picker. I'm going to come down. I'm going to change this one here. Change all. Yes, I want to change it across the other pages of my design too. So I went ahead and did that now. And everything that was using that blue. Now I think because I did slightly different blue, so I think I had slightly different blue on one page than that page. So that might be something I want to go back to that original template and change everything so that all of these background sort of images or rectangles behind my title use the same color. That way I can change all instances, and all my pages will update. So again, these are the little types of issues invariably you're going to run into, and it does make sense to put a little time into fixing them, because anytime you put in upfront now, if that means a faster and faster workflow every time you use this system in the future, that is totally going to be time well spent. Now again, I could come in here and I could change my logo here. I could actually go to the source. So let's say I want this color to be not a blue door, but something else, maybe something like this across all my designs. So again, I could go to the source here. Let's click on the image part of this, and let's come in here and change the color. Choose something like this. Again, this might not be perfect, but we'll go ahead and do that. And we're going to save that. So again, publish updates, publish updates. We'll jump back to that main design here and click off it for a second. Wait until we see that red. There we go. Update all instances. Yes. And so now we've changed the color of our logo across all these different designs. Now the other thing here is this post is actually about affinity and not about Canva. So I could click in on the source image here. Right now we have this Canva logo, but I'm going to swap in an affinity logo so we can have that for this particular one. Now this software logo I'm actually only using on one page in my design file, so you could argue that I don't need it as a component, but I'm going to show you maybe why I would still do it as a component. So in here right now I have this Canva logo, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to now add in an affinity logo as well. So I'm going to grab that affinity logo, have it here under my uploads tab. So let me just add it in here, and I'm going to position it so it's roughly over top of my Canva logo there, and I'm going to drag it in so we get it right like that, and then I'll position it down so it's roughly in the same spot. I could fool around with that, but that looks pretty good. So I have both of these in here. I don't want them both obviously turned on at one time, but I can come down here in my layers menu and find this Canva logo and just lower the transparency. Now I would love it if Canva named layers here, because when this is turned off, I can't easily see what it is with the transparency turned down, but I know this is where I'm going to store some logos. So I could also have like a Photoshop logo, whatever software I think I'm going to be teaching and I might be using in one of these files. So now I could go ahead and again, publish updates for this, publish updates. And then if I come down to that copy we're working on now that we spawned from our template, if I come in and click on this now, obviously click off, click it back on, see this update option, I can refresh this and it's going to refresh that with that affinity logo. Now there are other ways I could have done this as well. Components are going to make the most sense when you're using them across multiple pages within a design, so you can really do a lot of work at once. But for things like this, if you still want to organize them that way, just so you know you have that one source component where you just turn on the logo you're going to use, you can do that as well. So it's really up to you figuring out the different ways you want to build. So very quickly, build out all your assets here, updating those core components very quickly across all the pages of your design. And then for other small edits you want, you can still come in here and do that. So maybe I want to change this color of the door. Even if I click on it, it's not allowing me to. So I can right click and come down and find this component option and go in here, and you can reset, you can detach. So I'm going to detach this. So now this is just a separate element, no longer tied to that original component, We used that to build it out initially, but now I can come in here, and now if I ungroup this and I click on the door itself, now I can come in here and change that door color. So let's go ahead and down here and grab our color picker and just grab this green from the logo here. So grab that green there. So now we're going to use that for our door color, and I might use that as well down here for the color of this rectangle here. So come in here and again, click on color, make that adjustment. So very quickly, you can still come in here and make adjustments to the individual pages. Here, if I wanted something on the text, maybe on this one that says link in bio, so I could come in here, I could click into the text, I could say something like comma link in bio. So you can still come in here and make lots of little micro adjustments beyond what you have set up with your initial components, but they are the starting point, the building blocks that you can automatically update across all your design pages. So if you really think out a smart system, you have the potential to save a ton of time. Let me just show one more example to really drive home how this can save tons of time. So I've created a slightly alternate version of that template, adding in even more variety. So I expanded upon what I just did a little bit farther. So I'm going to open this brand template here. We're going to use this so it'll create a copy, and it'll bring in that template as a new design. We see it's a copy up here. So if I look at these pages here, this is my main image. I've just added sort of this placeholder grid background. But then on this page here, I have a frame. It's a complicated frame here. So I'm adding in complexity, variety to my design. However, there is a quirk with a frame where if you have a frame, you can't immediately add a component into it. So this is a frame here, but this is my main component. If I try to drag it in, it won't immediately lock in. Now, what you can do, however, is create a frame and then save that entire frame with the image in it as a component, and then you could go in and adjust that image. So there are multiple ways you can do this, and I'm going to sort of run through this example here so you see two strategies, so you can start to understand the strategies you can have for working with a templating system like this and using components. So as I click through here, we'll just see I have even more variety in here, just different versions. So you might create content for different platforms, but then across each platform you might want some variety, so you have some options to choose from. Or maybe you're going to publish one now and then you're going to recycle through your content later, but you want a slightly different version. So there is some advantages to doing this in bulk, so you save even more time by using these components. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come back here, and just to show you, I'm going to go in, this here is my main image. So we're going to go in and update this from the source. So let's say I have a totally different source, and this time I'm going to come under my uploads, and let's say I want to use sort of this tiger image. So we'll drag that in here. We have a new image. Remember, we're going to publish those updates, publish updates, and we're going to see all those changes populate across our main file now. So now when I come in here and I click on this main image, we'll get this update button. Do we want to update all 9 instances? So now we're up to 9 instances where we'd have to do that 9 times, but now I can just click this one button and everything's going to update. Now, here's what I'm talking about with the frames. Here's the different strategies you can approach and the little quirk you have to learn to deal with. Because this is a frame, I can't directly add this component into there. However, all I have to do is come in here, right click under my component, detach. Now it's a regular image. Now, boom, I can add it in there. I can do all the normal things you can do with an image inside a frame. Okay, so very quickly we can get around that little component quirk just by understanding there are multiple ways we can do this. Now, if I click through my other pages here, we can see another example here where this one actually is just a frame itself. So you can also store something where the whole component gets saved off as a frame, including the image inside of it. So now for this, we can see this is an image in frame component. So for this example here, I would go to the source, have to pull this border out of the way here. Then I would come under uploads. I would drag in my new image. Boom, there we have it. Pull that border back. Now we're going to go ahead and publish these updates, publish updates. And then if I come back here again and we click on this, we can see that now we can refresh this, and now we have this image in here. Now, I probably wouldn't want to use this strategy. I would probably want to use this first strategy if I only had like the one instance of this frame here. However, if I was using this image in frame component across lots and lots of pages, then this strategy would make plenty of sense. So it really is thinking about your workflow, what your particular needs are, and then once you understand these quirks with components, how they work with certain elements, you can really start to build out a system that makes sense for you. Again, I'm using that word system because you have to think about what repeatable steps steps you can create for you, your business, so you can save the maximum amount of time. But these are components in Canva. They let you build really quickly now. They're akin to smart objects in Photoshop, link files in Affinity. So really just a great way to save tons of time. So make sure you're learning all about components and starting to use them in a smart way so you can save lots of time. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you spent some time thinking about how you might be able to use components in your workflow, because even with all the new AI updates, I really think this is the feature that might be the one that really saves you a ton of time. Don't forget there's that free cheat sheet if you want to grab it down in the first pinned comment. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.